Okay, it's 1 o'clock UK time, so we will get started. Thank you very much for joining the event. We are talking about generative AI today and how it applies to operational risk, both from the benefit perspective, but also from the risk perspective. The two presenters today is me, and of course, I'm joined by Elena Pykhova. While we wait for other participants to join in, we'll just do a brief introduction, and then hopefully we'll have everybody in a couple of minutes with us. So uh, I see a lot of familiar name, but for people who don't know me, I've been in operational risk management discipline for the last 25 years. I'm co-founder and chief risk and AI officer at RiskSpotlight, based in UK, and very passionate about operational risk management as a business management tool or a strategic tool. So that's me. And then at the moment, I'm very passionate about AI and how AI applies to operational risk management. So that's what I'm going to share today, but I'll let Elena introduce herself.
Thank you, Manoj. And I am Elena Pykhova. I am director and founder of the Opris company, providing board and executive level consultancy education on risk matters. I've also, like Manoj, have been in the industry for over 25 years. I feel very passionate about operational risk discipline. I speak, I teach. I was the former director of education for the Institute of Operational Risk. I run various industry forums, and today delighted to do this double act on this interesting topic with Manoj.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Elena. In terms of the agenda, so it was advertised when you joined the event. We're going to start with the benefits, which will cover the real life use cases. And then we'll spend also time on looking at the risks of this new technology. And we will also have polls during the session. So we'll also be able to see what the other peers who are on this session are able to do. And Elena has also conducted polls with other practitioners. So she'll also share results. So you get a general idea of how this topic is being implemented or looked at within the industry at the moment. Before we dive into the core subject, I just want to congratulate Elena on the second edition of the book she just launched. I've already, advertised this on LinkedIn and shared with various people that this is one of the best operational risk books, especially for people who are new to the discipline, because it doesn't focus on just the regulatory capital compliance type angle, that it's a very business focused book, which is what I found from this book. So congratulations, Elena. Anything you want to share in terms of the second edition with the audience here?
Yes, thank you very much, Manoj. Indeed, I'm delighted that the writing is over. It's, some of you may have my first edition of the book, which has received a very good industry feedback. So what's new in the second edition? I think the operational risk discipline is a very dynamic field and it doesn't stand still. And I think that's why we are both so passionate about it. So no wonder that the book needed to be updated. There are 2 new chapters on incorporating ESG into operational risk management, and then a chapter on reflections on the future of the discipline, including the use of AI, as well as all of the updated tools, because they reflect of what is happening, what is the dynamics within the financial services industry. So thank you for this moment of celebration. And actually, I wanted to mention that there is a celebratory book launch party in London. You can see the link here. So for those of you who are in person in London, please feel free to join me in October.
Great. Yeah. And I'm also going to be there for that event. So it'll be a good opportunity if anybody is able to join. And my colleague Amrita will just post that link in the chat now. So if you want to register, it's a free event. So you can, register and join us, and it'll be great to also meet you face to face. Thank you. Thank you, Elena. Okay, so then if we get started with the core content, so the way we've divided is that, we'll do the first 20-25 minutes on the benefits, then we'll do 20-25 minutes of the risk, and then we'll leave the last 5-10 minutes for Q&A. And then if there are many questions which we need to answer, we'll stay an extra 10-15 minutes if needed to respond to any questions. Uh, so let me then start from the benefit side. So one of the key benefits of generative AI for operational risk management teams is the enhanced productivity, where especially tools like Copilot, which is what we're going to talk about, can be very useful for raising both the personal productivity of individuals within the team. But of course, there are a lot of team related activities. So if the whole team is using generative AI, then it can also improve the productivity of the entire team. Uh, and another key benefit you get from generative AI is reducing the time and cost of doing of completing certain risk management activities or projects. If you're launching a new product, and if it takes you, 10 days to identify the risks at the moment, using generative AI, you should be able to reduce that to 4 or 5 days, for example. So that's one example of where generative AI can help reduce the time and the cost of activities. Especially on the project side, I want to share one example where we were working with a bank where they had a 15-month project where they were going to invite external consultants to come and review the controls they have into the GRC system. And then when we talked about generative AI, they thought they could reduce that project time from 15 months to maybe 5 or 6 months, that it would provide significant benefit in terms of cost and time reduction in reviewing the controls, from 15 months to maybe 5 to 6 months of that project. So that's the level of productivity gains, we're talking about with generative AI. And then I'll show some practical examples also to support that. Then in addition to productivity, the other key dimension is improving the quality of risk management. So the first one is where we're getting a lot of use cases that every time I talk to a bank, it is very common that, there are data quality issues where the risks are not documented correctly, the controls are not documented very well. So a lot of the use cases right now is, can generative AI help us fix the quality of the data we already have today? And then, of course, any new controls we are documenting, new issues we are documenting, can we document those in a consistent manner going forward? So generative AI can help with that. Generative AI can help generate risk insights from large amount of text content. So if I have details of all the loss events that have happened in the last 3 months, can generative AI read the details of all those loss events and give me a summary of 2 paragraphs on what were the key events that have happened, what were the key root causes, is there anything which needs attention from the risk owners? That generative AI can generate those insights, which for humans trying to read so much text and trying to generate insight will always be very time consuming. You can also use it to improve the communication you're sharing with your stakeholders in terms of, if the framework is getting updated, policy is getting updated, and we need to communicate that. If there is a new initiative, you want to create a video around that new initiative and share it with the stakeholders, then generative AI can also help with that particular activity. And with generative AI, you never start from a blank sheet of paper, that you always will have generative AI for brainstorming. So you can always get a 50, 60% start, that if you're launching a new product and you want ideas on, okay, what are the 10, 15 risks you should consider for that new product, you can ask generative AI and then it'll tell you that, okay, these are the 15 risks you should consider. So you never now start with a blank sheet of paper or anything. If you want to write a new policy, you get generative AI to help start writing that policy and give you a 50, 60% head start. And then, of course, you refine after that. And the last one is that it also gives you then access to in-depth risk management expertise and advice, which is particularly useful for small and medium-sized banks, because the large banks can afford PwCs and McKinseys and Deloitte consultants, but small and medium-sized organizations where there are just 2 or 3 people in the risk team, they just don't have the budget to go to and hire Deloitte and PwC type consultants. So for those organizations, now generative AI provides a lot of expertise on third-party risk, on cyber risk, on vendor-related risk, where they can at least get some initial advice on the topics they want, which is better than no advice they were getting previously. So with that, let me then highlight the 2 aspects that a key criteria of generative AI, that we will only use generative AI if we can get high quality outputs from AI. And then this is the common problem when people are new to AI, they start using ChatGPT. Common complaint is, oh, I didn't like the answer. The answer was not very good. Well, there is a reason for that, that you will only get good answer if you use the right model and you ask the questions correctly. So there is this new skill called prompt engineering, which we all have to learn, that if you don't ask the question correctly, then of course you're not going to get the right answer. And that sort of is what I'll focus and show one real life example around that. In terms of the models, these are the different AI models, generative AI models, which are available at the moment. We've tested all of these from an operational risk and compliance perspective. And the two best models right now are ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. And Copilot is also ChatGPT in the backend because Microsoft has invested $10 billion into ChatGPT. So they get access to the ChatGPT model. And then in my discussions I've had with financial services firm, 90% of the firms are going with Microsoft Copilot because they already have a relationship with Microsoft. They trust Microsoft. And Microsoft has added a layer of data privacy and security on top of ChatGPT, which, organizations don't want to directly use ChatGPT. So that is the more a safe way from a risk management perspective to use Microsoft Copilot. And at some point, Copilot is just going to become part of Office 365. So when you get Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Copilot will just be part of that. That right now it is sold as a separate product for $30 per user per month. But at some stage, it will be just part of the Office suite. And then everybody has the Office suite. So everybody will have access to Copilot at some stage. So from a getting good answers perspective, these are the two best models at the moment based on our assessment. And then I wanted to focus on the prompt engineering aspect, that, okay, how do I then ask questions if you've picked the right model? And I want to demonstrate these 4 use cases. So I'll start with the first use case around how do you generate a new policy from scratch? So we will generate a generative AI usage policy. A lot of organizations are at the moment drafting the policy or have already, issued that particular policy, but every organization needs to have a generative AI usage policy. So I'll just use that as an example to show the importance of prompt engineering. Okay, so I'll just go here and I will create a blank Word document from scratch. I will use Microsoft Copilot, in this case in Word. So Microsoft Copilot also has its own interface where you can chat and ask questions, but Copilot is also available in Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. So you can also access the Copilot features directly from those Office applications, which we all love and use. So in this case, I will start by the generative AI usage policy. So let me ask the first question, which will not be an example of good prompt engineering. So here I click on Copilot, and then I'll just say, write content for a generative AI usage policy. And if I submit, then in this case, the Copilot will use whatever knowledge it has about writing policies in its database and its memory, because the model has read everything on the internet. So whatever is on the internet, the model knows about all of those topics. So it has read lots of policies, so it knows what a policy looks like. And then it knows about generative AI. So in this case, it will go and start writing the various sections of the policy. But you'll see that this policy is not good quality. I can't use this because it's very short, and these sections are also not very consistent. So this is what you will get, that if you just ask that simple question, or just write the generative AI usage policy, then you'll get an answer, but it will not be very good quality. So this is where then you need prompt engineering. So let me then discard this. So we start again from scratch. And I will then show example of how do you use prompt engineering for writing this policy. So if I copy and paste this prompt, so this is where I'm saying, imagine you're an expert at writing policies in a financial services firm. Help me write a generative AI usage policy for my bank. And in this case, I'm using a fictitious financial organization called RWS Group. And then I provide instructions. So I'm saying that in my next prompt, I'm going to give you the section I want for that policy, because I don't want it to write the whole policy in one go, because that always gives bad quality outcome or poor quality outcome. because the policy documents are normally very large, you have to break that into subsections. So you have to ask each section one at a time, and then you get much better quality answer. So that sort of is what I'm giving in the instruction, that I'm saying, okay, wait for my step. And then I'm giving instructions that it should be clear, concise policy. Uh, Everybody who has at least 1 year of experience in financial services should be able to understand. So it doesn't include very sophisticated concept, which only experienced people can understand. So you can tell something about the target audience, and then it'll accordingly write the policy, which then is relevant for the target audience. I'm saying don't use technical compliance jargon, because everybody in my organization should be able to read and follow this policy. So this is what is prompt engineering. It's the art of asking the questions, giving instructions so that I get good quality answers from Copilot. So because of time, I won't go through all of this. So I'll just click on submit, and then it will say that, okay, thank you for the detailed instruction. It is ready for the instruction. So what I will say now is, now write the policy for the first section. So I click on Copilot and I say that, okay, this is the first chapter I want. And then I want this guidance. I want the purpose, scope, objectives. So I give it some guidelines of what I want it to write about. And then I click on submit. And then based on that guidance, it will now write the content for that first chapter of the policy. Okay. And then if you like that response, you can review it, you can keep it. If you don't like the response, you can, regenerate it, and it'll give you another version. And then you can keep doing that until you get a good start. And the idea is that it'll never give you 100% start, right? So it's giving you a 50, 60% start. And then you take that policy, and then of course you have to then talk to the various stakeholders and refine it. But at least we're not starting from scratch. That is the big benefit generative AI is giving us. So if I click on keep it, then I get that content already stored in Word. If I then give it the second section to say that, okay, I now please write the content for the second section, where I define some of the definitions I need to include into the policy. And then if I like it, I'll say keep it. And then I just keep doing that if you have a structure that every policy in your organization need to have certain section, then you just keep mentioning those sections and it'll keep writing that policy. And right now, I haven't given the context of the organization. So you can also give the context of your organization. You can give other policies as a template for it to learn from. So there is a lot more you can do to make it write policies as close as possible to how other policies are in your organization. So I don't have time to create all the sections here. So I've just created a whole policy so you can see what a finished policy looks like. And then I just use the designer feature to do that, some color and formatting. But this is what the policy, the chapters look like. And then I can also use generative AI to generate some of the images. So like here, I'm talking about definitions. So I can go to Copilot now, and I can say, let's include some image into my policy, because generally the policy documents are very text heavy. They're really boring. So now with generative AI, we can make it a little interesting, a little readable by putting some images. So you don't want too many images, but this is a prompt you can write in Microsoft Copilot. So now I'm not in Word, I'm in Copilot, where I have a prompt to say that, okay, give me an image of a open dictionary with light glowing out from it. So, and when it generates the image, then you can copy and paste. Those images in the document and format it like I have done here. So there is an image there, and then I included another image here in the ethical consideration. Okay, so that's the first example of drafting content. That when you're drafting content, you now use generative AI as a starting point. So get a 50, 60% start. So you don't have to, start from scratch at any point. The second example I want to show is creating a personalized AI chatbot. So this is where you can create Copilot for specific use cases. So HR can create their own Copilot, marketing team can create their own Copilot, and operational risk team can also create their own Copilot. And this is what a Copilot looks like. So if I go to the channels here. So in this case, I've created a simple copilot called OpRisk Teacher. And then I've given it a set of instructions to say that the user will ask about some questions. And as a teacher, you have to explain that concept to the user. And then you can attach the documents. In this case, I have attached the Basel Principles for Sound Management for Operational Risk. So it will then give the answer based on the content of this document. So this is where you can create Copilot, where it understands the framework and the policies of your organization. So your users don't just get generic internet answers, they get answers which are aligned with the framework and the policies of your organization. So this is where there's a tool called Copilot Studio, which is where you can create these Copilot. So this is, this will be done by the IT team or the admin team, so this is not end user functionality. This is where you can create copilots for specific purposes, where those copilots can be made available as chatbots. So you can then provide that as a chatbot on your operational risk website. So in this case, if there was a new person in the organization and they didn't know, okay, what is a control? So I'm new, so can you help me understand what is a control? Then the user can ask that question, and then that copilot would follow the instructions you have given, and then it will give the answer based on the documents you have attached. So you don't get generic internet answer with this approach. So here, it then provides me a brief explanation of what is a control. It gives me a detailed explanation of the different types of controls. And then I'm also given instruction to give practical examples. So it also gives me practical examples around those controls. So, and this Copilot can also be made available in Teams. So you can create this Copilot, and then I have this OpRisk Teacher is a Copilot. So all the employees can add that Copilot on their Teams, and then they can ask questions. So if I don't know, okay, what is residual risk assessment? Then I can ask that question. And in this case, rather than talking to a person on Teams, I'm talking to an AI chatbot, which has been configured based on the framework and the policy of my organization. So this can save a lot of time, where if the second line team is getting a lot of questions from the first line on framework and policies, then you can create a chatbot, give it to your first line, and then the quality will be good because it's answering based on the framework and the policy documents of your organization. It's not taking generic internet related answers in this case. So this is then the second example. And then the third example I want to show is how do you create training videos? Because in risk and compliance, we are creating a lot of training videos, and it takes a lot of time and effort to create and update those videos. So I want to show an example of how you can use AI to quickly create these videos, because AI can probably cut the cost of creating risk and compliance videos by at least 50%. Yep. So in this case, the example I will use is in Microsoft Copilot. In this case, I have the EU AI Act. So this is the new act, which everybody in Europe needs to comply with. It's a 144-page document. So the task I want to give a Copilot is that take this this 144-page document, and let me just attach that act. And then I am asking it to create the script for a training video. So I copy and paste my prompt here. So I'm saying that, okay, read this regulatory document and create a 5-minute video script for an introductory course on this act, because now I need to train everybody in my second line operational risk team. So first we'll train the second line op risk team, and then we'll train the first line team. So I want to create a 5-minute introductory video on EU AI Act for my second line team. So I'm saying that, okay, give me a 5-minute, but you can change it to 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So you decide how long you want that video to be. And then it will focus on the financial services aspects, because the EU Act applies to all industries. So in this case, it will say only focus on financial services, use financial services example. And then I click on submit. And in this case, Copilot will write a training video script for that particular video. So it'll read the 144-page document and then write the content for the training video. And then what you can do is that there are tools which can create videos. So in this case, your generative AI is creating text, but outside Copilot, there are other tools where you can also convert text into videos. So that is what, I want to demonstrate. That in this case, yeah, it'll give you the script file. So while it is thinking, I'll show you the example of what that output would look like. So if I go into this tool, so HeyGen is one of the AI video tools. So in this case, I took the output from the Copilot script and then I added into the HeyGen tool. And then I have added this AI avatar. So in this tool, you can add an avatar, and the avatar is the one who's going to read the content in this case. If I just play this video has been generated by AI. So let me just click on play here.
Welcome to this introductory training on the EU AI Act and its implications for the financial services industry. Today, we'll explore how this regulation impacts our sector, focusing on...
Okay, so that's one example. You can see it's created that video, and then I have an AI avatar. So now all that time of getting somebody to record, finding somebody with a good voice, all that goes away because now AI will give the voice. AI also gives a human clone, so you don't have to have, boring screenshots in the front. You can actually have a human-like AI avatar. But so this is not a real human. This is an AI avatar. And then HeyGen tool is one of the best tools where it does the lip sync correctly. So if you add like 2 minutes of clip, you can then use that clip and then it'll organize the lip sync based on whatever the text is. Then another example of this, where if you want a person and, some slides. So there's another tool called Colossal, where it will then generate, you can see an AI clone here, a human-like clone, plus it creates all the PowerPoint slides and animation and so on. So if I just play this.
Welcome to this introductory training on the EU AI Act and its implications for the financial services industry. Today, we'll explore how this regulation impacts our...
Yeah. So this is another example where it's created various slides and various topics, and all of this was created by AI, which today, when we're creating risk and compliance training, there is a lot of manual activity. There's a lot of creating examples, creating test questions at the end of the exam, finding somebody with good voice, recording, editing. And then those risk and compliance training are not revenue generating. So it's a pure cost from an organization perspective. So that's a perfect use case to use generative AI, that you can at least slash the cost of creating those risk and compliance training courses now by at least 50% by using Copilot and then some of these additional video related tools. So with that, let me pause here. We will switch to Elena. So we will then talk about the risks, and then if we have time, I can come back and show the fourth example. But at this stage, let's also try to get the balance. While we've looked at the opportunities and the use cases, it's also important to make sure we also understand the risks around these. So Elena, I'll stop sharing at this stage and I will let you share.
So continuing, of course, we are doing this double act with Manoj, and of course, Manoj focused on the glamorous aspects of the opportunities. Fantastic. We have to look into this, and they have to be used in the right manner with the robust governance frameworks, recognizing the risks. And that's what I will focus on. And I think let's start actually with a poll, and let's ask yourselves, do you already use Gen AI applications? And it could be public, ChatGPT, it could be private within your company, Microsoft Copilot. So, it may be yes, you have already explored. It may be not yet, or maybe it's planning to explore. So hopefully you would see a question pop up as Manoj has just launched it in the chat. And hopefully you are able to vote. So we will just give it a few seconds to see what is coming through today in the audience. And Manoj, please tell me when the results are coming in. What are the, what is the distribution of percentages?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll just give 30 seconds for people to vote.
Very good. And with every audience, it's interesting just to see the magnitude, especially ChatGPT was the fastest adopted and fastest launched application, isn't it? As based on the various news sources. So it's so useful, whether it's ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, that I wouldn't be surprised if there is quite a high percentage of those of you who have already explored general AI applications. So Manoj, let me know what are the percentages.
Yeah, I closed the poll and 72% is yes, and no 14%, and planning to explore 14%. So you're right.
Excellent.
Yes, that was 72%.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I think that's where we start considering. So, majority is already using these tools, and it's not surprising because they're so useful. And I think the governance frameworks are lacking behind, because you can see Cisco just issued a survey this year, as everybody's using general AI tools, with a couple of questions, including, so what is it that you put into the Gen AI applications? And you can see some shocking answers, that it's customer names, employee names, non-public information. And this is being put into the publicly available tools as well as the sort of private, more secure tools. But the point is that we need to be faster in applying controls and governance frameworks. But instead, the train has already left the station. There is already these tools vastly available out there, and we as financial services firms are behind, in my view, in implementing robust control frameworks. If we have a look at the poll that I've done earlier this year with Best Practice Operational Risk Forum, these are operational risk practitioners from over 50 financial services firms. What is the overall stance of generative AI? And you can see the minority of organizations have decided whether it's permissible or prohibited. And, some organizations decided that publicly use tools like ChatGPT are permitted, with some restrictions on what can be put into that. Some others went with complete prohibition of generative AI tools. There are some jurisdictions, for example, Swiss banks that build reputation on privacy and discretion, are more reluctant, for example, to venture into this domain. So, it depends. My concern is more with the right-hand side of the slide, which is, while some companies were more decisive, over 80% of organizations are still either considering or discussing, but the train has already left the station. So in a way, non-prohibition signifies permission, because in the meantime, if we don't tell our employees what you can or cannot do, they would assume and make assumptions, which may be right or wrong. And therefore, Gen AI is a risk driver. In our operational risk taxonomy, we are all operational risk experts. Generative AI is not a risk in its own right. In the taxonomy, it's a driver of other risks materializing. And if we look at just some of the aspects here, misinformation and disinformation, cyber risk, all of this privacy, disclosure of confidential information. There was quite a lot of press of Italy's data protection authority looking into ChatGPT, especially its mass collection of data used to train the algorithm. And then just recently, Brazil has blocked Meta from using Brazilian Instagram and Facebook posts to train its artificial intelligence AI models, because this is private data. So there is quite a lot, going on there, including over-reliance on AI, some third-party risk, as well as traditional model risk, because generative AI, as other AI, are models in the end of the day that have to go through the model risk governance. And I think just a couple of real-life examples where these are already materializing. So if we look at the deep fake in the beginning of this year, we've all seen on the news the out of Hong Kong, the multinational firm paid 25 million and lost it due to a conference call with what was a chief financial officer, but in fact it was a deep fake. And if you use World Economic Forum that publishes top risk reports every year, the Global Risk Report of 2024, you can see putting misinformation and disinformation right up the top. And that is a new risk that shot right up to the to the top of the scale, and so is increased cybersecurity. And I think that is quite interesting. The response, to these deep fakes events that are happening in the market. And I look and read at quite a lot of market data, like I'm sure you do. This particular one, and some of them are quite pessimistic. Everything is doom and gloom. Some of them I think are perhaps overly optimistic. And this particular one notes that in fact, from a deepfake perspective, it's mostly in hand, and 73% of firms, this poll is in the US, have developed a deepfake response plan. So I think, Manoj, let's do a second poll. So if that is such a positive 73% response, I would be interested whether your organization has developed this plan and whether you are aware, not aware, whether it's something that is already done and dusted. And I truly hope that many of you would be part of this 73% who have already looked at the control frameworks. So let me pause for a second. Let Manoj launch a poll. Hopefully it will appear in your chat.
Yep, it has launched, and then we'll just wait for 30 seconds. Getting the responses. So what were you expecting, Elena?
I am very hopeful that we will get close to 73%, but somehow I am skeptical. And I think that 73% is probably overly optimistic.
Okay, I will then close the poll now. So 58% is no, and 13% is yes, and then 29% not aware. So the big one is 58% no.
Thank you, Manoj. And I think that is useful to do this because this is a strong message to all of us, isn't it? That we have to up our game from a governance framework perspective. I think if we look at the similar cases, phishing, malware, and actually Manoj's RiskSpotlight subscription is very useful because it pushes through all of the recent events. So if you are a subscriber, I'm sure you are opening it up and you can choose the news, recent risk events related to generative AI. And there are so many out there, so the hackers criminal group GXC team has been using AI powered phishing tools to steal sensitive banking information, targeting the users of Spanish banks in particular. Then the HR space are reporting AI algorithms mimicking the tone and style of legitimate communication. So there are twice as many malicious attachments in Q2 2024 with 74% increase. So again, these are very real events and statistics, and especially phishing, malware, deepfakes. There is a growing concern in the biometrics, in the ability to fake sort of the biometric identity, and therefore the decreasing confidence in the ability of biometrics to remain as a good control. And if I think we consider that AI is used with both, positive and negative characters. And that's another survey from Isaka, which said bad actors master AI faster because there is less governance, obviously, than for us within financial services firms. We have to go through approvals and governance. And I think Institute of Risk Management put it out there that generative AI considered an emerging risk. And I would actually say it has emerged already big time. We are seeing events materializing. So this is absolutely something that we have to be on top of. And therefore, there is a dual role, in my view, of operational risk teams. One role is to look at the benefits of generative AI for own use. The second is to lead firm-wide risks and opportunities assessment, to claim assertively your seat at the table, collect the audience. Operational risk practitioners are very good in facilitating, connecting, reaching across the silos. So collect people and prompt these risks and opportunities assessments. What are the pluses? What are the minuses? And we are usually looking at the right-hand side, all of the risks. That's why risk management at times is a bit negative because we use the words with the negative connotations, incidents, risks, threats, but also looking at the opportunities like Manoj focused on today. So this is our dual role. Let's help our organizations. Let's lead these risks and opportunities assessments. And actually, let me pose this question to yourselves. So let's launch the third poll. We are with a group of operational risk professionals on this call. So are you, in fact, already leading firm-wide risks and opportunities assessment? Maybe you are participating, maybe you are already involved in some type of project that is assessing risks and opportunities, or maybe you are in a leading role. So I am hopeful again that we will receive a good percentage. And I think that is also a very interesting space from a governance point of view. If you are not leading, who should be leading? Is this the model risk team? Because AI is very much subject to model risk governance. Is that IT? Is that the DPO? Is it compliance? Or all of the above should be there. So interesting to see what will come out of the survey. So Manoj, please let me know how is the response looking like.
Close the poll. Yeah, so we've got 50%, Elena, on yes participating, and 18% leading, and 32% no.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Manoj. So I think that is excellent, actually. I am very pleased that the majority collectively is either leading or participating, because I think we have to have a seat at the table. We have such a fantastic set of skills that stretch across the whole operational risk spectrum, that we have to be at the table. And if we are not at the table, I think we should claim our seat at the table. And I think perhaps for those 28% that are not yet there, consider how can you get into this space. And that is another poll from Best Practice Operational Risk Forum. We did it just the end of last year, where we were quite honest about our own skills and knowledge, and I think you can see practitioners admitted that more is needed in this space. And I think it's absolutely essential that we launch ourselves into these new topics. And in terms of the industry landscape, so what are the use cases, Gen AI use cases in operational risk management? That, again, is a very recent poll. We just had a meeting with Best Practice Operational Risk Forum. And you can see things that Manoj was talking about are very much being used. So risk identification, not to start from scratch. What are the risks in derivatives trading? So some of the questions you can get exactly these ideas, not to start from a blank piece of paper. Data improvement and risk analysis, data improvement controls which are the same but formulated differently, risks that are duplicated. Risk reporting is an interesting one. For example, read the risk report and rewrite it consistently with, for example, annual report or other reports or policies, because operational risk reports are also written at times in silos with compliance, information security, and all of the others. So the board reports being written independently. So quite a powerful tool. And then you can see content creation, fantastic. So slides, videos, policies to begin with, give some ideas, are all the useful areas of focus. And I think, again, let's go back to yourselves. What would be your most likely Gen AI use cases? And hopefully it's a multiple choice. And maybe they are already your use cases, or if they are not your use cases as of yet, where do you see the most value in the future? So whether it's risk identification, giving you some ideas, risk analysis also. I think operational risk is text-based, so it lends itself very well to the use of generative AI. For example, reviewing incidents to identify the incidents with the same root cause. Because it's all text-based, again, not numeric, Gen AI can help big time improve data, create content. So let's see, what do you think? are the most useful areas that you maybe already are implementing or collecting the benefits of Gen AI? So Manoj, let me know when the responses come through.
Risk analysis was the highest one, 25%. And then content creation was the other one, 21%. And then risk reporting and risk identification, 20% each.
Fantastic.
But yeah, risk analysis.
Thank you very
majority.
much. So I think these are all of the things to consider. And I will just finish on the balancing act, so using this very powerful tool, which absolutely is very beneficial in our space and in fact in all financial services and non-financial services spaces, in the right manner. So in the right manner, which is with the right governance. And that's where I think organizations have to up their governance standards. And the challenge now is, as generative AI is a dynamic space, its regulation is also very dynamic. And, regulation and guidelines come in all different forms. There is European Union AI Act, which Manoj has mentioned. So that is a regulatory framework which applies to a majority of member states without the need for national implementation. So this is quite a powerful document. And you can see the core view on from the European Union AI Act is this risk categorization. So sort of it's a risk-based approach. So there are absolutely unacceptable uses of AI which purposely manipulate or deceive, exploit vulnerabilities, etc. So they are prohibited, and that is now a law with penalties. The penalties are higher than GDPR, so it's 35 million euros or 7% of global annual turnover. If you think about GDPR, it's 20 million and 4%. So there are quite good punitive measures. And then there are high risk applications, high risk, which are remote biometrics, for example, which we use for customer identification, critical digital infrastructure, educational learning outcomes, recruitment. So a lot of this is applicable to financial services firms that have to take note of the European AI Act. And maybe if we'll pick a couple of others. So basically what the Act does, it classifies the applications. It has the appendix of, for example, which ones are high risk for clarity. And then it stipulates necessary risk management and control requirements. And another framework that also focuses very much on risk management and control requirements is NIST. So NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, has issued AI risk management framework, which is based on this cycle. Govern, map, measure, and manage. And there are detailed requirements under each section. So for example, under governance, there would be 6 principles and 19 subpoints that provide a very good starting point if you are writing your internal policies or practices or around the governance of generative AI. And I think some other points. So for example, if we look at Japan, I just like that their approach on guidelines for businesses is based on philosophy. And you can see basic philosophies is dignity, the society that has respect for human dignity, diversity and inclusion and sustainability. So very similar sets of controls throughout the whole development cycle, slightly different approach. And I think with this, I will conclude on saying that these are two ends of the spectrum. The one point is using the opportunities absolutely for our own benefit. And the second point is claiming our seat assertively at the table, looking at the risks and opportunities, running the assessment with the firm, and helping our firms to establish these robust risk management frameworks. So with this, I think I will pause here. And I will stop sharing and I will just leave a few minutes for some questions. I have seen, before we move to the questions, I've seen one comment on the chat about the book. You can find it with all major retailers or on the Amazon. And there is a Kindle version as well for those of you that prefer the electronic version. So Manoj, let's open up. We've got a few minutes. Let's open up for some questions.
Yeah, so I think there was a question which you were just covering, so we can maybe cover that around the controls. So where do I find? Good to talk about the risks, but what can we do to mitigate those risks? And that's where the NIST risk management framework, the AI risk management framework, they just published a recent update where they provided a comprehensive set of controls you can implement to mitigate the different types of AI risks that I would strongly recommend you go and look at that on the NIST website, and it's a free resource, so it doesn't cost anything. That's the best at the moment in terms of good documentation, best practices. But anything else to add to that, Elena?
I think all of these standards, one of the key challenges, I would say, especially for global firms, is understanding national and international legal and regulatory requirements and frameworks. And that is, I think, true for all types of challenges, isn't it? Generative AI included, because they are not homogeneous at this stage. I can see in the comments UK issued the act. That is very true. UK, USA, and the EU signed first international treaty on AI ethics. So that just proves how dynamic this space is. I think understanding the requirements and then following at least the EU AI Act, because it is the regulatory framework. So that's the law. And then I think NIST is the go-to standard, which is very useful.
And there was one question around the prompt. So let me just share my screen so I can share the detail on that question. So on my PowerPoint slide, is where you can see here that, yeah, we've documented over 100 plus operational risk use cases. These were the 4 I wanted to cover today. We covered 3. Due to time shortage, I was not able to cover the last one. But if you want to arrange a session to go into this, because we had limited time today, but we are offering a free 60-minute consultation session to any second line operational risk team, because we want to raise the awareness on this topic, for within the second line team. Then this is where you can email me, and then we can arrange that consultation, and then I can share the prompts I was using for the policies and the other prompts as part of that session. Okay, so that sort of is how, if you're interested in exploring the benefit side, the topics I covered, then please connect me, and then we can arrange a 60-minute session where we can go into these examples a little bit more. We can talk about any specific use cases you have. So I think, David, you asked that question. So if you just email me over here, then we can connect, and I can share the prompts, and we can also discuss then, because just sharing the prompt is not going to help, right? How do I generate that prompt? What is the process I went through to generate that prompt? You want to understand the thinking. Otherwise, the prompt, just sharing the prompt is not going to be that useful. It's the step-by-step process of getting that prompt is what I want to share, which, I can share if we have a meeting.
So Manoj, there is a good question, I think, from Barry. Are any of the GRC systems effectively building AI into their platforms? Because I think it's very pertinent to our space, where many organizations have GRC systems. And what have you seen perhaps as progress in this space?
Yeah, so we are actually working with 2 GRC system providers of, providing them the knowledge of integrating this. And the lesson is, it's probably going to take 2 or 3 years, because this is not like an add-on, just add 2 reports to the existing system. If they want to integrate AI properly, they probably have to rewrite a lot of their software, so it'll require a major rewrite. So it won't be very easy. So yes, they will start saying, or someone already starting to say, we have AI integrated, but integrating it properly as the core part in all the different aspects, we're probably 2 to 3 years away at the moment. But they will be, all of this will be part of the GRC system at some point.
And there is another question on whether, would you recommend the development of a specific AI risk framework for firms, or the incorporation of AI risk into existing frameworks and policies, such as model risk, etc.? I think, in my view, it depends, because if the organization is using AI extensively, then I would suggest a separate AI risk management framework, because it is, as a model, it is quite unusual in a sense that almost all employees can use it. The models before were very proprietary and used in trading, model risk, and so on. So the very limited use. So I would recommend to have a separate framework. On the contrary, if the organization is having a very limited use or not using it at all, some organizations are prohibiting the use of AI, then perhaps it's not necessary. What do you think, Manoj?
Yeah, I think, because you want to reuse what you have, but there is a lot of new topics. So it'll be like a subset of the risk framework you have at the moment. It won't be like like on the top of the risk framework. So it has to be part of enterprise risk management. So like we have operational resilience and conduct and financial crime, AI risk will be another subset. And there'll be a lot of overlap between model risk and technology risk and business process failure risk around that, but definitely will require some new thinking, but should be integrated with what you have.
Okay, I think we don't have any more questions. I think many are thanking us for the sessions. We hope that it was useful. I think we don't have all the answers, neither myself nor Manoj. I think the purpose of this discussion is to prompt this thinking, because as professionals, we do need to be in the forefront. And it's good to see some polls have given some good results, that many of you are already at the table. So let's keep this up, and let's make sure that good, robust governance is in place for our organizations. So with this, thank you very much, everyone.
All right. But thank you, everybody. Have a great day.